Hi everyone, good morning. We're gonna jump right in and super quickly review our three rhetorical appeals, which make our arguments strong, and some fallacies, which we know fallacies make our arguments weak, because we need to be able to find out how, or not only what the authors are arguing in our articles today, but how are they doing it. Cool. So, like I said, our three rhetorical appeals make our argument strong, which is why there's a smiley face. Our three rhetorical appeals are ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos, I'll start with pathos because it's first. Pathos is an appeal to somebody's emotion. That could be an appeal to someone's sympathy, excitement, fear, or patriotism, right? The author is trying to evoke some kind of emotion from you. That's pathos. Fallacies are what makes our argument weak. They are failed attempts at rhetorical appeals. So the failed attempts at pathos would be things like slippery slope and false dilemma. Ethos. Ethos is an appeal to credibility or morality. So a lot of times it's when the author tries to get you to build trust in something that they're arguing for. My example would be when we see on like advertisements, for example, like toothpaste, sometimes they'll say 9 out of 10 dentists recommend you use Colgate because it prevents cavities. They're trying to make you build trust in them because, sorry, I got distracted. So they're trying to make you build trust in them, and because the dentists also trust them as well. Let me drag my face over here too far. Logos. We know that logos is an appeal to logic. And the way we remember that is LOG logos, LOG logic. Logic can include statistics. A lot of times we see when there's numbers, we point them out as, oh, that's a statistic, or it's a fact. And also illusions are considered logos as well because it's a form of factual knowledge. Failed attempts at logos are things like post hoc and strawman, which is what we're going to go over right now. Slippery slope is saying that one thing will lead to another, but there's not always evidence that connects the two. So, for example, if you don't do your homework, you'll drop out of high school. There's a lot of steps in between that happening. Obviously, you should do your homework. So, another slippery slope could be if I do all my homework, then I'll go to Harvard. But there's a lot of steps in between that you have to do to get to that place. So it's assuming that one thing leads to another, but you need evidence. Straw man is basically if somebody's making an argument and then somebody else is trying to refute that argument, they aren't addressing the strongest piece of their argument, they're addressing the weaker part. For example, if we jump down to the bike photo, somebody might argue that we need more bike lanes in Boston because biking is more environmentally friendly. So we need to have more bike lanes and less car lanes. Whereas somebody else who's trying to refute that argument might say, but people who ride bikes don't know how to drive, they run through red lights, and they cause traffic. But that person isn't refuting the environmentally safe piece of the previous argument. They're addressing something else completely separate from it. And then stacking the deck is like if you can visualize literally stacking the deck of evidence that supports only your argument and is not addressing the opposite argument. It's either ignored or rejected or omitted, so it's not included at all. This can look like in advertisements when we see, for example, I did Burger King for the French fries. They say 40% less fat, 30% less calories, bigger the taste. But they're not telling us what percent of fat is in the French fries, and they're not telling us how many calories there are. So 30% and 40% of what? This is why we need to, when we write our essays, we need to include the counter argument to our own arguments, because saying why the other side is wrong makes our argument stronger. That's all I have for you today. You're all doing great per usual. We miss you all. And yeah, I hope you have a great day of learning. See you soon.